I just the imagery.
The visuals are hitting you, Andy.
Yeah.
You know what time it is, right?
Man, I can't do this.
We've been staving it off as long as possible. I think, Andy.
I know.
It's about time we visit that topic here at Urban Jungles, which we hold so near and dear to our hearts. And I, of course, am speaking about the Sweetwater Rattlesnake Roundups, which are taking place this weekend as we speak right now in Sweetwater, Texas. The festivities have undoubtedly begun. It's a 4-day event, and what we have is yesterday, being Thursday, was the beginning of the Miss Snake Charmer event, where several young ladies, and I use the term loosely, compete for the title of Miss Snake Charmer, who then is led via parade the very next day on Friday, literally paraded down the main avenue of Sweetwater, leading to the Coliseum, where the JCs hold the event. And Miss Snake Charmer's primary duty is to begin the festivities by decapitating and skinning the first rattlesnake of the season, with many, many thousands to follow after that, unfortunately. What a tough situation it is. I'm going to have to call upon our partner in crime here, one of the only few people in the world who could understand what it is we're dealing with, because she is an expert in the field, unfortunately not by choice. Ladies and gentlemen, Jungle Junkies, help us welcome the one and only world famous Sky Stevens. Sky, you with me?
Hey.
Hi, Sky, how are you? So we just started talking about the whole entire process, and it begins this weekend, Sky. Sky, happy 1-year anniversary.
I know.
Can you say happy?
1 year free of jail.
Yeah.
All right, that's the only happy portion of it.
We are 1 year jail free. We are proud of that. And essentially, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, last year, Sky Stevens and I had the dubious honor of being greeted by the Sweetwater police when we arrived in town to cover the Sweetwater Roundups. And we'll go into more detail about that. But essentially, what I wanted to do tonight is talk a little bit about the Roundups. We have a lot of new listeners, literally thousands of new listeners that have joined on since last year who may not be as familiar with our campaign. So I wanted to bring everybody up to speed on what's going on, and also steer people in the right direction so that we can be most effective at fighting this travesty. Now, for those of you who don't know, every year since 1958, I believe, this event has taken place in Sweetwater, Texas. It's a rattlesnake roundup where basically thousands and thousands of animals are collected from the vicinity and beyond. Animals meaning western diamondback rattlesnakes mostly. And these diamondback rattlesnakes are collected from near and far and brought to this festival where they are processed. Then they are, after being kept on display for a couple of days, one by one, they are decapitated and skinned and given to the general public, who will pay, I think it's like $10 to participate in skinning your own snake. And I guess you get to keep the skin afterwards if you'd like, if you'd like to purchase it or whatever. So this event has been going on for a long time now, the better part of, half a century. It really is a travesty in so many ways. Now, there's proponents on either side. There's people who argue for both sides of it, and it's an argument and a battle that's been going on for decades, literally, with very little changing. It's a hard battle. It's a really hard battle. It's like, I don't even know really where to begin. I guess I could tell you guys that I could start by giving you our experience, I think would probably be the best. Letting you know what it is we experienced it. So last year, let's rewind a little bit. Last year, Sky and myself headed over to Sweetwater, Texas to document the events of the roundup. What we wanted to do was get footage, having insight into the animal's biology and behavior. We wanted to get footage to basically show how these animals are being affected by the treatment and the inhumane treatment that they're receiving at the roundups and whatnot. We arrived that Thursday evening to the event, and upon our arrival, immediately at the very first event, which was the Miss Snake Charmer pageant, Sky and I were unceremoniously pulled out of the crowd and then held outside by the Sweetwater JCs until the police arrived. Throughout that time, they wouldn't talk to us. It was very awkward. Sky and I really kind of had an idea of what was going on, but not really. I mean, we knew that they were there to give us a hard time, but we didn't know to what extent it would be. And it was very awkward. They pulled us out. They asked us to wait outside along with, like, what was it, Sky? Like 4 other guys, right? In cowboy hats and the whole nine. And
yeah, they were big.
Yeah, these big dudes, these big boys, right? So they surround me and Sky. You know, I'm 5'10". I'm a little dude. You know, I'm not a big guy. And Sky, like, you know, probably kicked the crap out of me 4 times over. So she was the tougher one of the 2 of us. And so they had these 4 guys basically had us pinned in this, like, you know, in this entranceway to this event and wouldn't let us leave until the police arrived. And they wouldn't explain to us why we were being held or anything. So it was very awkward. We waited there for a couple of minutes, and one of the gentlemen ended up being the chief of police, which we later discovered, which was really interesting because he ended up being a zombie, but we'll tell you about that later. But one of the gentlemen was the chief of police, actually.
I forgot about that part.
Zombie chief? I can't forget zombie chief. So we were being held there, and then the cop comes. It was a police officer who was a very nice guy. You know, I can't say anything about him really negatively. He was doing his job. And so he arrived and he informed us that we were being served with a criminal trespass warning, which essentially meant that if Sky or myself appeared at any JC's events, including all of the events surrounding the Sweetwater Rattlesnake Roundup, we would be arrested on site for no other reason than just being there.
Just being there.
Just being there. That's all. Not even, you know, causing a ruckus, not even dressing badly, whatever. Just being there was enough to get us arrested.
It's like being in the 1950s and a colored person. For crying out loud.
You know, it's not unlike that mentality. He's a colored person. Good Lord. It's not unlike that mentality. It really is this kind of Twilight Zone scenario where you know something is just wrong, you know something is amiss, but the whole world around you can't see it, and you're just trying to convince people of that. And it was just very surreal, very crazy. We were obviously warned that if we participated or arrived at any of the events, we would be arrested on site. Of course, that kind of, you know, messed with our minds that evening. I was not in the best of moods that evening, Sky, as you recall. for the short moments of sobriety that we had, it was, you know, it was crazy because it was at that moment I thought that I had messed up. I thought that I'd blown all of our chances to expose what it was that was going on in Sweetwater. But through the graces of social media and the wonderful power of Urban Jungles Radio, it actually worked in our favor because so many people became outraged by the fact that we were being picked out, singled out, and held, you know, away from these events. It was obvious that they had things to hide and didn't want us to, you know, bring light to that. So in the end, it worked out much better. I think we brought a lot of attention to the situation, probably more attention than most other, you know, media organizations single-handedly have ever done. And so in the end, I'm happy with what happened. But ultimately, we are still battling that criminal trespass warning. Myself personally, still battling it, which leads me into the fact that this year, due to various reasons, I decided not to head to Sweetwater. Obviously, we're here tonight talking about it. The biggest reason being that the Sweetwater JCs refused to lift the criminal trespass order against me, which would allow me to move freely amongst the JC events, meaning all of the Sweetwater Rattlesnake Roundup events. We've been in communication with the JCs throughout the year. I have, my attorneys have, and they refuse to let up on it, which is pretty interesting to me because they are really hell-bent on keeping Urban Jungles Radio out of there, which is, you know, which is fine. That's a goal, but it doesn't mean you're going to get it. So if I were to show up, I would be arrested on site at this stage, at this juncture in the event. So I chose not to go for a couple of reasons, but that being the biggest. I think at this stage, I don't think I could really prove much by getting arrested. And I don't think it would really work in favor of, you know, working towards stopping the roundups. So I opted out of physically going there, but that's not to say that we have not been involved in fighting this atrocity all year long, literally, which we have. My battle has not wavered in the slightest with them since we came back a year ago, last March. I've actually been working diligently all year long, and I hope to have some exciting news for you guys in the near future on this as things develop. But I just want everybody to know that Urban Jungles Radio is personally committed to fighting against the Sweetwater Rattlesnake Roundups, and we have no intentions of stopping until it's over. When that is, I don't know, but it's a goal, and it's something that we're not going to stop on. It really infuriates me to date that so many people think that the Sweetwater Rattlesnake Roundup is untouchable, and it's too big for the average person to take. We've actually here at Urban Jungles Radio have taken on the Humane Society and asked them, confronted them. I've personally called the Humane Society. You can listen back to some of our episodes and hear these phone calls where we've asked them and approached them about the Sweetwater Rattlesnake Roundup, and that was literally their reply. It's just too big, and that's unacceptable to me.
That's extremely unacceptable for coming from such a magnanimous organization as the HSUS is.
It's completely unacceptable. I mean,
I don't buy it. I'm sorry. I don't buy it. For an organization like that, I don't buy it. For someone, for people like us, I can see where other people would have issue with taking on a giant, but there's no reason why two giants can't duke it out in a ring.
And here's the thing. I mean, organizations like HSUS will battle to keep us from keeping our animals as pets.
Yep.
But they won't battle this obvious, blatant torture of animals. I mean, it's very disheartening. Not that I had much faith in HSUS to begin with, but it also just kind of outlines the hypocrisy behind it. It's a huge battle, and it's got to be fought intelligently. I think that's the biggest asset that we have is fighting intelligently. Now, Sky, feel free to chime in at any time, but I know this is something that you and I have battled with a lot, is people's gut reactions to this.
Yeah.
I feel it's necessary for people to really see what it is that's happening at these events, and we've been doing that through releasing pictures that were taken by ourselves or by other people associated with us at the roundups to show you what it is that actually goes on there, because other organizations are shying away from that. Even Animal Planet, who has a TV show that revolves around these roundups, will not touch the fact that these animals are inhumanely slaughtered by the ton, literally by the ton. So I like to put that out there. Now, I completely feel everyone's anguish when they see these pictures and anger. And everybody's gut response. Yeah, believe me, nobody feels it more than probably the two of us, Guy, having actually been there and having had a personal battle with these people. Trust me, no one wants to lash out more than I do when I look at these pictures and be angry. But the fact of the matter is that sitting there and saying things about, screw that bitch, somebody should skin her, that does not help the situation at all, unfortunately.
No, I really think it hurts it.
Yes.
It brings us to a lower level, and we're clearly in the right here. I mean, we're the ones fighting against animal abuse, so we're clearly right. But when we, as a whole, and it's everybody, when we drop down and say these vulgar, violent things, it's like negates our argument. It negates the fact that we're right to begin with. And I get how hard it is to control it. I've been there, seen it in person, and it was hard. And I was hyperventilating. I was hyperventilating at the Freer Roundup, and I just had to walk away because, causing a scene was going to make me look crazy, and especially as all these people that are there supporting the Roundup,
Right.
It just makes us look crazy.
It does. It's counterproductive, completely counterproductive. And I think, honestly, as I said, our biggest weapon in this game is using our heads, because this is not a battle that's going to be won by threats. The Sweetwater JCs are a very well-organized, tight-knit group. They have this event down pat. So if you think that you're going to travel to Sweetwater, Texas, and make an impact by protesting or by physically showing up there and making a scene, or doing something, you're severely mistaken, because these good old boys will take you out quicker than quick. They have a systematic way of monitoring this show. They are watching everybody who's watching the show. They are monitoring people. They are monitoring your activities, how much time you spend watching one thing or another, where you're taking pictures, what you're doing. They've confronted people. They've confronted our people about, we're not going to see this on YouTube, are we? Or, they have no qualms about being confrontational about what it is you're doing at their show. And if they perceive you as a threat, as we found out, they have no problem just booting you out and just being done with it. So you really have to change your mentality if you think that you can go down there and make a difference just off the bat. It's really not that easy. It's a battle of wits at this point. And really, we have to take them out in places where we know that they're wrong and nothing is being done. And I think that lies in the power of the federal government. I think that lies in the power of Texas Parks and Wildlife. These are all different organizations that eventually will have to come about and help the change. But we have to convince these people in the process first. There's no easy way to go about it. As much as I would like to think that the Sweetwater Rattlesnake Roundup could be destroyed and taken down, it can be done. There's no doubt about it, but it's not going to be tomorrow. It's going to take a lot of fighting. It's going to take a lot of intelligent fighting. And I don't even know where to begin to go out telling that. I mean, obviously, Sky, you and I witnessed an appalling display of sponsorship, really, I guess is what we could call it, from Walmart. Sky and I were driving around Sweetwater, Texas one day during the weekend of the events, and it was amazing to see the support that this organization is getting from outside, powers that be. One of the biggest being Walmart. Walmart was airing commercials on the radio all day long throughout the day, celebrating the event and touting themselves as proud sponsors of the Sweetwater Rattlesnake Roundup. As a matter of fact, they even have Sweetwater specific souvenirs.
Didn't they have rattlesnake bobbleheads or something like that?
Yeah, they had rattlesnake flasks, bottles, mugs, all kinds of crazy stuff. So everybody and their grandmother is literally making money off of this organization, which is why they're going to be so resistant to change. Earlier, somebody mentioned about throwing money at the problem. That's always a good solution. I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of throwing money at problems because sometimes it is the most effective way. But this is not one of those situations. Sweetwater does really well. This is a multi-million-dollar operation at this point.
This is their event that gets most of the people through the entire year.
This does determine the funding for a lot of the organizations that they donate to. This determines the funding for things like local firefighters, volunteer organizations, EMS. That's really the kind of weird juxtaposition. It's a
double-edged sword. You got people that are doing such horrific things to animals that just want to live there, but yet you have firefighters, you have police.
That's the thing. It's benefiting, orphanages. It benefits homeless shelters. The money that's raised from this work from this event by the JCs goes to homeless organizations. It goes to schools. It goes to the local firefighters, EMS. It goes to all these really benevolent, reasons that really do need the funding. And it's wicked because here you are, you have all these animals slaughtered, by the thousands every year for this event. And, there's so many wrongs and rights about this too. And we can sit here and we can debate what's wrong and what's right about the roundups all day long. But what it basically comes down to is disrespect. It basically comes down to disrespect of nature, disrespect of the animals. I mean, even in the cases where you can sit there and you can argue, for the agriculture industry or whatever, at no point in time will you see anything that is going to be slaughtered for our food being paraded around the way that these animals are. Not to mention the fact that some of these animals are collected and kept under incredibly inhumane and inhospitable conditions. Some of them are collected for months, almost close to a year prior to the event taking place. And for many snakes, this isn't even the final stop. For some snakes, a small portion of them, they're going to keep on moving on to other roundups, and they're going to supply other rattlesnake roundups in the area, some as far as Georgia, Tom Crutchfield himself told us that there were Western Diamondbacks at the Wiggum Rattlesnake Roundup. And where do you think those animals came from?
Not Georgia.
No, more than likely from Texas, from the Texas rattlesnake hunters that are collecting for these roundups. And so it really is just a twisted, barbaric ritual, because here you have these animals that are paraded around and inhumanely treated before they're inhumanely slaughtered, and people just really taking way too much just pride and joy in this, madness. I mean, I can't even describe it. Sky, you are a hunter. You are not a tree hugger, bunny loving type. So, I mean, you can separate yourself from this kind of stuff when you have to. But I mean, even from a hunter's ethical view, there's major holes in this, aren't there?
Yeah. And like when I hunt, I have my hunting license and I have tags they're set. I mean, there's a concept is called maximum sustainable yield. This is a major ecological concept. They teach this in Conservation Biology 101 and Wildlife Resources 101 at my university, and it's the maximum number of animals you can take out with the population remaining viable. And so they look at those kinds of things when they set bag limits for birds, deer, any of the game species, and no one's looking at that for the rattlesnake, and that's a major problem, especially with even the hunters themselves admitting that they're having to go farther and farther to get the numbers of snakes and the big snake. So that tells you right there. I mean, they're telling you that there's a problem with the harvest, and it's still nothing's being done.
Now, is it the fact that nothing's being done because Texas sees the Western Diamondback as a nuisance species? Is that simply it?
No, I really don't even think that's it. It's kind of, there's a lot of problems right now, unfortunately. And I mean, I support Texas Parks and Wildlife in a lot of ways, but unfortunately their funding is being cut hugely by Austin. And so they're kind of having to pick their battles, and when they pick battles, the Western Diamondback, while most people, do despise it, it's not something they don't want to protect, but it's really, really hard to when you have no money and they're not going to get any support from the public. So there's a lot of stuff going on. It's not just Texas Parks and Wildlife doesn't care. They're trying to pick and choose, and they're having to pick and choose what they know they can win. And it's really a shame. There changes need to be made at so many levels.
It really needs to be, and that's the problem. There's no cut and paste solution to any of this, because it's kind of this situation now that's feeding itself at this point, and it's become its own ugly monster. One of the common things we hear, and one of the main reasons is the rattlesnake roundups began in the first place, is population control. And that just drives me crazy every time, because it's like at this point, they're not even pulling snakes from the Sweetwater area anymore. They're having to go farther out. Sky, you and I saw last year that the roundups reached, the rattlesnake pricing itself reached an all-time high because of the fact that supply was not meeting demand.
Yeah. That was horrible. Texas had this drought in Texas was atrocious, and it hurt the animals. And so of course there wasn't going to be a supply, because all these animals were wiped out by the drought because it was so hard on them. So they just took more from different areas, which put an even more stress on populations. That just drove me crazy.
And at this point, there's no, and this is, and please, no matter what you people hear out there, just realize there is absolutely zero science behind this, regardless of what you hear. There's no data. There is data that's recorded and taken by Texas parks, but it's really useless data, because we don't even have locality information on the snakes. You don't know where the snakes were sourced from. So their size, sex, weight, and all is just useless data, really. And it's really just posturing at this point. And another argument I hear as far as science goes is snake venom. Please don't even. I mean, there's one individual out there who just basically puts out, all kinds of cockamamie stories about how, the roundups are vital for anti-venom. No, the fact of the matter is that even these individuals who are going out and shopping for rattlesnake venom at the roundups or doing extractions themselves are still buying rattlesnake venom from places like Kentucky Reptile Zoo and other places that have captive animals that are milking animals in captivity for this. So if rattlesnake roundups ceased to happen tomorrow, the anti-venom production would not be affected, because the vast majority of it is purchased from captive breeding facilities anyway.
But with the 5,000 pounds of Western Diamondbacks that are captured every year for this event, what are they doing with the venom that they're extracting from the snakes?
It allegedly gets used to make anti-venom.
But isn't there supposed to be some type of sterile environment, or isn't there supposed to be some type of protocol when extracting the venom properly?
I would think. I cannot get a straight answer on this, which is crazy. I would think that you would have to maintain some kind of a clean or sterile environment, which is almost exactly opposite. I mean, Sky, you could tell us when you walk into that place, what does it smell like when you walk into that roundup?
Horrible. The place is dirty. The floor is dirt because it's in a rodeo coliseum. They were milking them into a baby bottle, and they're just using a cheap plastic funnel. They probably got it like AutoZone, and a baby bottle probably from Walmart. And there's no way those things were autoclaved or anything. No. There's no way. It was not sterile.
Yeah. So I'm pretty positive that that's not getting used. But even if it was, it's useless because it's not sustainable. I mean, here you are, you've gotten this great yield of venom from these snakes. You'll never be able to get that yield again from these animals because they're gone.
Yeah.
They're destroyed. And it's such a waste of a resource. So even if that is your motive, if you're going in and you're saying, the venom provides all this useful anti-venom, it's bullshit. Because A, it's probably not even being used. B, there are alternative sources. And C, come on, it's a shithole, man. Who are you fooling? It's just crazy. These people think that they're fooling others, but it's not happening. I mean,
yeah.
So there's no science. My long-winded point is there's no science, zero zip behind rattlesnake roundups. There's no benefit, no matter what you hear, no matter who tells you what. There is no benefit from it. If they stopped, it would not be a bad thing because the animals would only benefit at this point. Has nothing to do with population control, has nothing to do with venom collection, has nothing to do with it. It's just a freak show. That's all it basically comes down to. It comes down to a basic freak show where they put these animals on display. They are kept in a giant pit here. For those of you looking, let me take a picture of my pit here. Here's a pit. They're kept in a giant pit, piled, high up on each other. One of the JCs has to constantly move throughout the pit, kicking the snakes around or flipping them with a snake hook to keep the ones on the bottom from being crushed because they are all in this panicked, stricken state where they're all trying to pile up on top of each other because they have no cover. They're looking for some safety. Stress levels are through the roof on these animals. They're all defecating on each other. They're biting each other. They're killing each other because rattlesnakes are not immune to their own venom, believe it or not. So when these snakes are biting each other, they're envenomating each other and killing each other in the pits too. So, I mean, it is just a horrid scene. Nowhere under any circumstances, except for maybe a Purdue farm, will you find this kind of concentration of animals, being held together that are supposed to be for human consumption, which in itself needs to be said. Something needs to be said because let me tell you, you're a sick bastard if you're eating rattlesnakes at one of these roundups because these people are kind of gross. It's a dirty place. It's not a kitchen.
And wasn't there? I don't remember if it was at this particular location, but Sky, you had mentioned on a previous show about gassing to get the snakes out of the dens. And doesn't the gas still stay within the meat when people are eating it?
Yes.
That's something probably. I mean, the USDA has levels, what legal level for hydrocarbons like gasoline and meat, and I mean, no one's looked at that, or the USDA is not testing. Are they feeding people this meat that would be a carcinogen? Gasoline's a carcinogen, and so they don't even know. I don't know how that can be safe. It's scary,
and
frankly.
I mean, first of all, this needs to be mentioned in itself. There's a whole process of gassing. I mean, this could be a show in itself to talk about this topic alone. But fact of the matter is gassing still happens, and it's highly illegal. But it's one of those loopholes that nobody really cares about. So to explain gassing to you guys, let me just give you a quick rundown for those of you who don't know. You have these hibernaculum pits, essentially where the dens where the rattlesnakes live. And once these dens are discovered and there's a population of rattlesnakes in there, what someone will do is trickle gasoline down into the den. And what that does is the fumes become overbearing in the den and start to drive all of the animals out. It's a really quick and easy way to collect rattlesnakes, because you pour some gas down the den and then you sit and wait, and they all come flying out there because they can't deal with the volatile gases and the noxious fumes involved with gasoline. So essentially you sit there and collect these snakes, take them out. Now the biggest problem is that, like we just mentioned, you're getting gas into the systems of these animals that are going to be used for consumption later on, which is crazy. Cancer, have fun with that.
Yeah, enjoy.
Enjoy. But then what you do is the most important part is you are just decimating the ecosystem, because seldom ever are rattlesnakes the sole residents in these dens. They're usually shared by other animals depending where it is in the range that we're talking about. Sometimes you could have other protected animals like tortoises living in the burrows with them. A countless number of invertebrates, of small mammals, of amphibians, which is a huge one. Thank you. All these animals share that environment. Now, when you pour gas down that hole, first of all, amphibians are dead on contact. I mean, they can't even get away from the fumes. Their skin is so permeable that it immediately poisons them and dies. And that will stay in there for months afterwards, basically making that microhabitat inhabitable. I mean, if you guys have to realize the habitat these animals live in is not an easy habitat. It's there's temperature extremes, there's moisture extremes, and these animals rely on these little microhabitats to survive. Once they're removed from these microhabitats, there's nowhere for them to really go. So you're destroying all these microhabitats, and you're affecting different taxa of animals all the way down the line, from tiny inverts all the way to other large mammals, things like aardvarks and
even birds too would use those as burrows, right?
Roadrunners will use them, sure, absolutely. So it really affects everything. So you are just totally destroying. It's total ecological destruction. It is federally, there's a federal law against gassing, but it just gets swept under the rug because who's going to monitor this?
And of what Sky said earlier with the funding, they're not going to worry about some jerk off, gassing a hole when they have so many other things to worry about. That's, down the list at like 100.
Well, no, and I mean, there's no manpower for that. Just the sheer number, there's so many hunters, rattlesnake hunters. They can't go out and follow these guys. So just like any other hunter, that's why hunting is such an ethical thing. Like, you really have to have a strong ethical background to be a good hunter, because you are alone out there. It's only up to you. There's no police, making you do anything, or if you're stupid enough to get busted because you do something in front of somebody, whatever. But for the most part,
shoot a gun.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, you're left up to your own accord to be ethically sound and practice the proper ethics when you're out there. Obviously not the case. There's no ethics involved in this whatsoever, because these guys are getting paid by the pound. So they're looking to get rattlesnakes. And there's no skill. See, this is also one of the biggest things. And I'm sorry, guys, I'm just turning into a Danny rant show. But there's no skill involved. And as herpers, we're all herpers here on this conversation. Sky, there's skill involved in finding a lepidus. There's skill involved in finding rattlesnakes. Yeah. There is no skill involved in gassing. If you're going to be a snake hunter and you're going to go out and you're going to find these animals on a one-on-one basis and catch them, then, kudos to you, evening the playing field a little bit more. But there's no skill involved in pouring gas down a hole and waiting. None. And that's an insult to anybody with any kind of reptile knowledge. These guys come across as these reptile experts most of the time. There's no expertise there. You're pouring gas down a hole. It's a skill set of a freaking monkey. Like, it doesn't, they put twigs down holes and pull out ants. It's not much different, You're not far up above a bonobo, for crying out loud.
But yet the ants are able to reproduce every year, so,
I'd side with the bonobo anytime anyway.
Yes, me
too. No, it's an insult, because there's no skill set involved in the hunt. Quote unquote, the hunt. There's no skill set involved in it. So, especially if you're a reptile herper, it's not easy to find these animals. I've gone out looking for western diamondbacks in Texas. It was hard. I had a hard time finding a wild western diamondback, my first one. It was not something, you're not tripping over them as you're led to believe by the JCs.
You mean they're not all over the place?
No, you're not. Sky, are they all over the place?
No.
She decided.
No. They know where to find them. And so, like, I've seen videos where they're like, look at all the snakes in this area. And all the snakes are obviously right around a hibernaculum. It's like a nice spring day. They've come out to bask. And so, yeah, there's going to be a lot of snakes right there. But, I mean, walking through the desert, like, I mean, I don't go hunting for scorpions. I literally run through the desert out here with nothing but a black light. And, I mean, because I don't worry, because they're not there in the numbers that they try to say that they are.
No.
It's not like that.
No, there is no huge population. As a matter of fact, I was reading this really good book, by the way. If you guys are interested in following up, if you want more details on the rattlesnake roundups, pick up the Texas Rattlesnake Roundups book by Adams and Thomas, which is published by Texas A&M. Really good book. And as a matter of fact, they go and explain that in this book, basically talking about they interviewed one veterinarian in the Sweetwater area, and basically they asked him how many envenomations he treats or whatever, and there's literally almost no death to livestock, no livestock death whatsoever attributed to rattlesnake bites. The animals were bitten. There's many cases of cattle and horses and sheep being bitten, but the majority of them survive it. It's not a major impact. So there's not this sweeping death traveling across all the livestock in Texas as they'd have you believe it's attributed to Western Diamondbacks. They are not out there in droves taking people out. It's not happening that way.
We have this joke that sheep come into the world looking for a place to die. If you've ever been around livestock, and sheep are the best at dying. So for them to say, I know that's horrible, but it's true. And so they're like, I wonder how many deaths, a sheep will just fall down and die. And they're like, oh, it must have been bitten by a snake.
Right.
And then horses, I have horses, and my horses get vaccinated. There's a vaccine for the Western Diamondback bite. And they have it for dogs and horses now. And so my horses get vaccinated, and I don't have to worry. So for them to be like, oh, we got to protect our livestock, no, you really, it's not like that at all.
No, it's all a farce. And it's so frustrating because there's so many untruths out there that are being circulated, not only by the Roundup people, but of course now we have the wonderful things like Animal Planet that are perpetuating this.
And Nat Geo.
And what's up with Nat Geo?
I don't know, dude. Did you see that
video?
You posted that, and I instantly got sick.
Scott, did you see this video that I just put up
earlier
today? Nat Geo just put out a new video. It's basically, kind of highlighting the Sweetwater Roundup from last year, I'm assuming. And it was just very nonchalant. Yeah. This is what happens in roundups.
Here's the truth.
And they show the snakes getting decapped, and they show
the collection process, and
it was just very matter of factly, this is what happens, how it goes down. And these TV stations perpetuate this, man, especially Animal Planet with Rattlesnake Republic, whatever the frick it's called, Rattlesnake Republic. I mean, what a crock of shit. First of all, every other Animal Planet show, it is the worst scripted and acted show in all of history. I've only watched 15 minutes of it in total, right? These jackasses cannot deliver a line for the if their lives depended on it. Then, they have these stupid scenarios going on. These guys are hunting for an albino Western Diamondback, and they happen to find one, right?
Oh, yeah?
You happen to find a Western albino
one
Western
Diamondback.
Yeah, whatever. All the stupid stuff, snakes in the swimming pools, that they're doing rescue. I saw a guy try to get a snake out of a swimming pool. He threw himself into the swimming pool in the process. Why would you do that? Because you're an idiot. It's just stupidity. So these shows perpetuate this.
Yeah. Everybody was standing outside of the pool screaming, and the snake is just trying to get out.
The snake was nowhere near the dude. He had to swim up to the snake.
The snake is stuck in the pool, and you're standing outside of it. Why are you screaming? Really? Grow up.
And then, he's in the pool. The snake's swimming away from him. He's doing Tarzan death rolls in the pool.
Did they have a big rubber boa that he was wrestling with at the same time?
They might as well have had, dude. And they're showing the snake swimming. Somebody's the cameraman is in the pool, laying on his back on the floor in the pool
Right.
to get shots of like the snake swimming over them. It's
Right.
So they had this rattlesnake in this freaking pool for like 45 minutes, getting all these swimming shots.
That's good. A desert creature in the swimming pool. That's nice.
Dude, I cannot even fathom the
chlorine.
stupidity.
Oh Lord.
The stupidity that they convey, or these shows, and I mean, and they don't even show you the facts. They don't even tell you that these snakes are all going to have their heads
because
chopped
facts
off.
don't sell.
No, they don't.
Facts do not sell. Sensationalism sells. You know, we listened to Danny Steele's horrific episode last week, and now we come into this, and I can't handle this, man. This is.
I have been sick all week knowing this weekend has been coming up. I mean, it's just been literally sick to my stomach because
you didn't sleep at all last night.
No, I didn't. I didn't sleep at all last night. It was weighing on my mind because I knew the festivities had begun. Like now, having been there, unfortunately, I know the smells and I know the feeling and I know that the cocky looks on their faces and the smugness because they know that they're getting away with it and they're enjoying it and reveling. And and these people have had proponents, like people, or people fighting against them, I should say, not proponents. They've had all these people who have been fighting this for 50 years, and they've been winning for 50 years. So they're cocky, smug bastards, and I cannot wait to wipe that look off of their faces one day because it will happen. I swear to God, this is going to happen in my lifetime. Sky, I swear, Sky, we're going to party. Like no party ever has gone on before on that weekend, let me tell you. Because me and Sky partied, and there wasn't even a reason to party. But that's another story.
Yeah, your reason to party
I
is
know.
depression.
No. I drove straight to the liquor store.
Dude, no joke. All right, we got to tell this story, Sky, because this is like too freaking cool. Okay, so like we're coming back from this whole thing went down. We're like grumbling. Yeah. I'm like punching the dashboard. I'm like,
I'm trying to make sure we're not being followed.
We're trying to make sure we're not getting followed out of town because
it
was so sketchy. Like walking out of there, like we knew they were following us. There were like these good old boys hanging out everywhere. So anyway, like we get in the car and we're like,
we had to walk through.
What's that?
We had to walk through this dark alley. I mean, like, and the hair on the back of my neck, like, did not settle until we got into the hotel room. It was.
Oh my God!
It was
horrible.
Crazy. We got we got out of that thing, right? The cops were there and the JCs, and we're done. And the cop, tries to like basically put all of our signatures on one page, and it's like, okay, we got this. So of course, like Sky's like, no, we need a copy of that. We're not leaving without a copy of that. So they're like, oh, you can just come to the police station. You can walk over. So like we're like, okay, we'll walk over to the police station, which was in hindsight probably a bad idea given what we had just experienced.
The police station was within proximity of the Coliseum.
It was like around the block from the place that we were going to, where we were doing the pageant.
Yeah.
Right? So whatever. So it's so funny because I watched this footage, Sky. I got to put this footage out there. I watched this footage from our videos from that night, and we got up and we walked away, and me and Sky we started laughing hysterically. But
out of nervousness?
Yeah, it's exactly like we just started like I reviewed the video and it's so funny to like now look back at it. We started laughing hysterically and talking about what had just happened, and the whole time I have the camera running, you can't see anything. It's pitch black, and I realize that Sky and myself are walking down this pitch black alley right around the block, literally through the back entrance of the event, where the JCs are like loading and unloading stuff into the event. So like,
so if you were more sneaky people, you probably could have.
We passed a pickup truck with a big cooler, and at one point, like I wanted to like pop it open to see if there were snakes in there, but it would have been stupid because first of all, we were surrounded by JCs. We were in this dark alleyway behind this like community center, and then we're trying to make our way to the police station.
What are you doing here, boy?
So like we made.
And there was a zombie cop.
Yeah, and there was a zombie cop.
I love the zombie cop, man.
So while we're there, you guys have to watch the video. I know, Andy, you put up the link on our page. Please go and check out our video, Sweetwater Rattled, so you can see what we're talking about. So one of the people, the JCs that are standing with us, was the chief of police. And while we're standing there, we get this lecture on freedom of speech.
The Constitution.
On freedom of speech and the Constitution from one of the JCs. And then the chief steps in and he says that he believes strongly in freedom of speech because he died for it. He died fighting for it.
My life, I fought and died for it.
What the fuck? I mean, like, here's kind of like,
mind equals balloon.
Yeah, he's like, I fought and died for the Constitution. Yep. And it's just like, cricket. And I had no idea what the hell he was saying. So like all that could come out of my mouth was like, I can respect that. Like, I had no idea what he was talking about, right? And I realized,
Liar.
he apparently, I guess he had died in combat or something, and I'm assuming he was resuscitated. Either that or he's a damn good zombie. But that was impressive. So yeah, he told us he died and came back for that night. So anyway, Sky and I are walking.
Even other JCs were like speechless when he said that.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I think that was probably the one solitary moment that you and the JCs were all in agreement, like, what the shit?
Yeah.
Well, it's no wonder he's no longer the chief of police anymore.
Telling tall tales that he died.
He retired that year. They probably forced him.
Yeah, I bet he was forced out.
But so this guy and I, we walk to the police station, and so we get our copy of the thing. We talked to the cop for a few minutes. He was nice people. He's like, "What are you doing here?" Like,
Yeah, he was just doing his job.
Yeah, he's just doing his job. He's like, "What do you do?" He's like, "Don't you have any other places you can see snakes?" And I'm like throwing my whole spiel down. No, but it's about culture and snakes and blah blah blah. So anyway, so we talked to him. He gives us our copy, and we head out. So we're in the car. We finally like check back in the darkness through the parking lot again, and we're making sure we're not getting followed to the car. We get in the car, and we're making sure we're not getting followed out of the car. And we take off, and Sky's like, "What do you want to do? Where do you want to go?" I'm like, "I guess we'll go back to the room." We're like, "Fuck it, let's get something to drink first." She's like, "Yeah, come on, let's go." So this is amazing, right? This is amazing in Texas. So you're driving in Texas, right? And she's like, "We'll go to the liquor store." And we didn't even know if anything was open, right? But then you go to this place, and Andy, imagine this, okay?
Okay.
Imagine this giant rolling steel door leading into a warehouse, right?
Okay.
So this giant steel door is open, and you drive into the warehouse, and you pull in halfway into the warehouse, and there's a register there. And you just stop, drive up, and be like, "I'll take a bottle of Jack. I'll take a thing of tequila, a couple of beers." And they come and they get their stuff. They get all the liquor. It's a drive-through liquor store.
See, I've seen that, but not like the individual bottles. I've seen it for like cases and kegs.
You don't even have to get out of your car, dude. You pay right at the register. Like they swipe your credit card at the car. It's like McDonald's times liquor.
Now, I'm not a drinker, but goddamn, that sounds fantastic.
That's fucking awesome. So we roll into this liquor store, and like we get our liquor, and we just get back, and we're like, "We're getting liquored up, bro." And we just go get liquored up for the night. And then as we're doing it, it was great because as we're getting back and we're sitting there and we're wallowing in our grief, like all of a sudden, phone notification goes off, and then another one goes off, and another one goes off, and all of a sudden, it was literally like blink, 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 blink. Sky and my phones were just blowing up with people.
I had to put mine on silent.
Yeah, we had to shut off our stuff because people were just finding out what happened, and the outpour of everybody contacting us for support was just mind-blowing. We were sitting up that night just completely blown away by how many people were on this and watching us and supporting us, and that's really what kind of gave us the energy to move forward with this at that moment. But it was really amazing. I mean, it was a surreal night. It was an amazing night. Obviously, it didn't go the way it was planned, but I honestly, Sky, I probably wouldn't have changed a thing. I mean, I think for what it was, we got some tremendous insight. I think the general public got a lot of insight into what was going on, and we helped to bring a lot of attention to it, and we got liquored up at the end. It was all good.
And we still got some great video from Ray.
Absolutely.
I mean,
that's right.
Ray worked out. Yeah.
Ray went in there hardcore. I gotta tell you, man, we were like, "Ray, you don't know what happened." And my man just like, no problem, I'm going in there. And he had his deal together. He set up a really cool little deal. We're not gonna give away his details, but my man got in there and he got some footage, and that's essentially what helped, because we were out for the count. Unfortunately, they know us. They know me and Sky.
They put out a wanted poster on you, right?
That's right. There's a wanted poster out. You have to put that out there. But they know us by sight. It's very interesting. So,
which is surreal in itself, because you're just two people from the internet that wanted to go and try and get footage. You weren't there to stop. You were there to kind of get information, and and you got to them. All they had to do was like burn that image of your face from your Facebook pages on both of you guys, and just know that shit.
They did.
I know. I remember you telling me that they had a placard or something, right?
We were online with people, man. Right, Sky? We weren't. I mean, it's not like we were the only ones there. We were online.
Yeah, they picked you out of a crowd.
They picked us out, and they were like, "You, excuse me." And it's funny is they didn't even catch on to Sky at first. She got over for like a minute or two. Like they picked me out, boom, right away.
Well, yeah.
Like the dude went up to me, yeah, because I'm Hispanic. God, you racist bastard! No,
you don't look like one of their Mexicans.
I don't.
You're a northern Mexican.
You don't look like one of the Mendez boys. But no, it's funny. Like they picked me out right away, dude.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting there, and the dude just stepped up to me. I remember my heart just went to my throat at that moment. He just stepped up and he was like, "Excuse me, do I know you from somewhere?" And I'm like, "Oh, fuck." And I'm like, "Nope." And I just like took a step to the right.
Did you try to do like a Texas accent?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
I was just like, nope. And I just like took a step to the side, like went to walk around the dude, and then he just got in front of me again, and he was like, "Is your name Danny Mendez?" And I was like, part of me was like, "Woo, yeah!"
Is your name Danny Mendez?
And the other part of me was like, "Oh no,
busted."
And then I was just like, "Yeah, it's me." No, actually, at first I was like, and then I was like, "Yeah." So, yeah. So whatever. So he pulled us out, and that's when the whole process began. And man, what a just freaking night. Probably, I gotta say, it was one of the best nights ever, Sky. It really was. Just because I think, like in hindsight, it was amazing to know that we made a little bit of an impact in their big world, at least for that weekend. You know,
I think you both made a huge impact in their world, because to this day, you're still not allowed to go there. You're still not allowed to step foot into Sweetwater.
And you know, they invite media there all the time. Like you can get passes and stuff. And I spoke to them this year. I called over a press.
Did you really?
Pass, yes.
You should have had me do it.
We're like, we'll have to call you back. This guy, Mr. Mendez, your press pass was denied. You'll want to contact the Sweetwater Police Department for more information. That was my voicemail. I should have saved my voicemail.
Yeah, you should
have. I told you to save it.
I'll do it next year.
Yeah,
I'll do it.
I'll save it. I'm sure we'll save it. I'm sure we can contact with them again. But yeah, they dug their heels in, man. They don't want me there, but it's okay because I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there wearing a Danny Mendez rocks.
Just revel in the fact that you got to these good old boys.
I totally do.
I hate to say it, 2 people last year just got to them so much that a year later they're still seething. I guarantee you they're still seething and burning over.
Here's the beauty of it is the fact that they don't know up until now, tonight, that I'm not there. And they were planning for me to be there.
Of course they were.
And I know for a fact that they beefed up security. I know for a fact that they versed themselves on what I look like. I know for a fact that they went out of their way.
I wonder if they had like 20 of their own JCs sitting in one room just staring at your picture.
I'm sure. I would not doubt if my picture's printed up somewhere. And I really hope it's one with me like shiny pants on.
And they're just like, remember this boy? Study him. Know him. He is the enemy.
Know his beautiful hands.
I'm not even going to touch that one.
Recognize that boy's beautiful hands and Rod Purdy mouth. No.
Yeah, that second part is probably accurate.
Yeah, you know, I completely revel in the fact that Sweetwater, you don't know when and where I'll be there, but I will be there, and we're gonna have fun with you. Yeah. I'm not done with you, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna make it fun. You know, real legal like and real fun like. That's all I'm gonna say. Sky, how you doing?
I'm good. I opened another bottle of wine.
Yes.
Good for you.
Sky, you're so awesome. I told I swear I told this to Sky yesterday. I really wish I was in a hotel room getting drunk this weekend on this, because it's just there's so much about this.
We could have made it
so wrong.
Realistically, we could have made that happen.
We could. We will. You know,
I wouldn't have been drinking, but
drinking. You would have been drinking. Look at the drawl setting in.
I know, right?
We're talking to Sky for just 10 minutes instead of talking slower and enunciating more.
Oh.
Pronunciation on the wrong vowel.
All that good stuff. But all right. So bottom line is the Sweetwater Roundup will be operating this year, and they'll be doing their stuff. And unfortunately, thousands of snakes will be paying with their lives. But every year, as more and more people figure out what's going on and we spread the word and, we just get it out there, it will be harder for them. The pressure is building. It will not last forever. The snakes will not last forever. The event will not last forever. It will eventually go down, and when it does, you can best bet that Urban Jungles Radio is going to be there.
I just want to say that I don't think it's going to last another 10 years.
I hope so. I hope not. I would like to see it go in 5. I mean, they will be the last giant to fall.
Absolutely. They're the last bastion. Realistically, they're the last bastion. Yeah, there are smaller ones, but those are the easier ones to convert and take down.
I applaud everybody. I know there's other groups out there like RAW and other groups that are focusing on other roundups, and that's great. And I'm going to leave that to you guys because, there's a lot of groups out there that are working towards. My focus is going to steadily stay on Sweetwater. Yeah. And I want to see this giant fall within my lifetime soon because
we can make it happen, Jack.
We will make it happen. Sky, we're going to make it happen?
Oh, heck yeah.
We're bringing science down, Sky. Yeah. Sky, you've been doing all kinds of crazy science lately. Let me catch up with you and all of your pronghorn ungulate catching and grad work and all that good stuff. You're doing some pretty cool stuff out in the field, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm really loving it. My school is fantastic for applied wildlife biology, and I think you can get more experience, especially as an undergrad, than any other university in Texas. I was actually going to pitch this, and I was going to say I just found out I got into grad school at Phil Ross, and so I'm going to be a wildlife grad student, and I'm really excited.
Yes, guys!
And so, I think I'm going to be working with mule deer, but I'm going to do a separate herp project on the side, and I want to do something with rattlesnakes.
Very cool.
I was really going to pitch my school for conservation biology because we have great conservation biology department. And they're doing stuff right now with mountain lions. There's 2 mountain lion projects that are just amazing. And so for people that want to help, if you're really interested in the science side, there needs to be a lot more science done with Rattlesnake Roundup. So that would be I can't even express having peer-reviewed papers about gassing and the hydrocarbons in the food and all of this stuff would just be out of this world, what it would do for the snakes.
And that's exactly it. We have to just fight it with real science, real facts on the ground, things that are, undisputable because that's what it's going to take at this point.
Yeah, that's the only way we're going to win this one.
But we got science and Sky on our side. We're set, man. I'm going to have to make a little intro song for you with She blinded me with science. Sky blinded me with science. She's entertained. So awesome. See, this is what I like Sky. She's entertained by me. I can keep her laughing.
Because you're a simpleton.
Even before she's drunk. Thanks a lot. Nice. On that note, oh boy. Sky, thank you so much for joining us for this rant fest, essentially.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thanks for really going through such a memorable experience with me. That was pretty awesome. It's something I'll treasure for the rest of my life, and I hope that going forward we'll have a better memory in place on the day that we shut this down.
I've got my criminal trespass paper framed in my first room.
I have
really
mine around somewhere. Wait. Here's mine. Hold on. Wait. I'm putting it out for everybody to look at. I haven't got a frame yet. Here you go. Look. Boom. Booyah. Right there. I'm showing it to the camera. There it is. There's my Sweetwater Police Department. I'm gonna have it framed by the next show too, just so you guys can see it. And I'm gonna get that cool little Facebook poster blown up too, Sky. I'm going to send you one of those of everybody's Sweetwater JCs warning everybody that Urban Jungles Radio is coming to your town. I love it. All right, Sky Stevens, we have to cut. We are running crazy longer than I thought I would, but it's always a pleasure to have you on the show, my dear. You are one of us. You are the Urban Jungles fam. Congratulations on being a real bona fide student of science and bringing it down. And I look forward to the next adventure, Sky.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a good one. Right? Sky Stevens, everybody. Give it up. Catch you next time, Sky. Thanks.
Good night.
Take care, Sky.
This is Anna Locke from the Human Centipede 2, and you're listening to Urban Jungles Radio. Join Danny Mendez live every Friday night at 10 p.m. in his quest to bring you the very best in cold-blooded entertainment. From special guest appearances to heated debates. You're listening to Urban Jungles Radio.
That's right. Unmistakably the world-renowned, amazingly famous Urban Jungles Radio. And I don't know, guys. I guess that's the show. It's been an interesting week. It's a tough weekend, man. And I honestly got to tell you, knowing that you guys are here and know that we are trying to fight for something and trying to get something done, having your support really does mean everything, especially in moments like this when it feels like we're fighting against the world for something that we really shouldn't have to. It's common sense to know that animals don't need to be treated this way. And it's very easy to find yourself getting sucked into the blackness and going insane when you have to spend your time trying to convince people of this fact that this is wrong and people are not seeing this. And that definitely weighs down after a while. But like I said, having the support of our jungle junkies and having you guys out there and helping us out really means the world to me and Andy. So thank you guys so much. We want to thank all of our jungle junkies for tuning in tonight to a very special show of Urban Jungles Radio, even though it was mostly entirely composed of my rants. Regardless, I think there's a little bit to be taken away from this, and essentially is that we are not done fighting this battle. We will continue to fight this battle until it's done, and we can't do that without you. So I want to thank you guys.
And people, from seeing a show, call up your sheriff so he can make him go. The town chief came back from the dead to fight for the right to chop off heads. You got a big tip from the interwebs to be on the lookout for Danny Mendez. You hear he's rolling with his partner Sky. You were all set to stop him if they even tried. Now you look dumb cause it's all online. Your whole collective group shares one spine. You brought a 6-shooter to settle the score, and now Bob and Colin are knocking at your door. And you piss in your pants. Never happened before, now you look like a fool. I see you writing online, you should have stayed in school. Collective IQ of a colony of ants. And you piss in your pants. See if you can bite with your mouth sewn shut. Take your dumb machete and shove it up your butt.